Hey everyone, my name is Dora and welcome to The Rose Colored Life. Today I want to talk to you about some of the top things that you should avoid during pregnancy. Now, I know that this is a really difficult topic to discuss because there are so many things that we have not enough information on, and so we're not really sure how much of an effect they really have on the baby. But there are some things that are just generally known that they do have a negative effect. They could cause miscarriage, they could cause neural tube defects, or they could cause just developmental problems in general. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. I just want to share some of those things with you and very briefly discuss them if there's anything I want to add to those things. And just so you know, before we continue, it's really, really crucially important that you actually avoid these things during the first trimester especially. So as much as it's important throughout your entire pregnancy, it's during that first trimester when you're at the highest risk of developmental problems and miscarriage. So if you're gonna really be consistent with these things, do it especially during that first trimester. Number one, alcohol and cigarettes. I know this is one that's really obvious, and I'm sure you guys have heard it before, or I'm sure you all know not to smoke or drink during your pregnancy, but it's one of those things that I wanted to discuss because I know that there's also people who say that you can have a glass of wine to help induce labor at the end of your third trimester. And as much as we've heard that before, and there are some people who really swear by this, we actually don't have a lot of evidence for it. What we do have evidence for is the effect that alcohol has on your unborn baby. And so it's just safer to avoid. It's better to just allow the baby to come when they're ready to come, and if you need to be induced, allow them to induce you medically, rather than having the risk that is added by having a glass of wine or by having multiple glasses of wine if you feel that, that'll help speed up your labor. Number two, caffeine. This was my biggest challenge. I'm gonna tell you guys right off the bat, I am addicted to caffeine. I'm addicted to coffee. I love coffee. And so I really struggled with this one. I cut down my coffee intake right away from multiple cups of coffee a day to just one, and I thought that was enough. And there are studies out there that show that you could have up to 200 milligrams of caffeine a day without having an impact on your child. But there are also studies that show that if you abstain from caffeine entirely, that it just helps with your baby's IQ, and these children often tested better. And so I just thought, you know what, it's a small sacrifice to make, and so because of that, I gave up caffeine entirely after my first month of pregnancy. Number three, soft unpasteurized cheeses or unpasteurized milk and juices. So when you're looking at a cheese package or a milk container or juice container, it should say on it that the cheese is pasteurized. If it's unpasteurized, it might not say anything at all, or it may say unpasteurized on it. So if you are buying a cheese that is unpasteurized, then it could actually be a carrier of listeria, which doesn't actually affect an average adult. And that's why it's totally safe if you're not pregnant to have, goat cheese or feta cheese and other soft cheeses like that. But when you're pregnant, listeria actually has been known to cause miscarriages. And so it's safer to avoid anything that can be a carrier of listeria. And so those are some of the things that could be carriers of listeria. Another thing that could be a carrier of listeria is number four, cold cuts. So this is one of the things that I struggled with again. I don't know why. I was craving cold cuts the entire time that I was pregnant. It's not something that I generally crave or, eat a lot of outside of my pregnancy, but during my pregnancy, I just kept wanting it. And I think it's because of the fact that I couldn't have it. Cold cuts are another carrier of listeria, so it's just better and safer to avoid it entirely. Number five, hair dye. As you can see, I love to dye my hair. It's all different colors right now. I have some blonde on the bottom, I have some red on the top, and it's just one of those things that I like to do. I like to have a change. I like to, mess around with my hair, but I actually was really concerned about the chemical intake of hair dye. You have it on your scalp and it's going in through your skin, or it's being absorbed, or even just inhaling it. If you're not touching up the roots, you're just doing streaks or something like that, you're still inhaling the chemicals. And so I was really worried about that, and so I just cut hair dye out entirely. And I've spoken to my hairdressers, I've spoken to my doctors. A lot of my doctors said it is safer to avoid. Hairdressers have said, it's something that you can do if you really want to avoid it. They didn't really care one way or the other, so I just chose to avoid it in general. Number 6, hot tubs. This is one of the ones that I struggled with as well because of the fact that we went away on vacation while we were pregnant, and I was so tempted to sit in the hot tub and just kind of relieve the aches that I was feeling. But when you're in a hot tub, your core temperature rises so much and you're already feeling faint while you're pregnant, you're already feeling overheated while you're pregnant. And it's just one of those things that it can actually be harmful to you as well as to your child, because if you're feeling faint and you pass out, or you could fall, you could hurt yourself, other things could happen, and so it's just safer to avoid in general. One of the things that I loved doing when I was pregnant was swimming, taking a swim, and just having like that buoyancy really relieves the aches and pains that you're feeling, and I felt so much lighter in the water, and I loved that feeling. So if you're really tempted, just hop into a pool, like go take a swim at like a public pool or in the ocean, and just, you know, relieve some of that pressure that way. Number 7, raw eggs, fish, and sprouts. If you are somebody who loves sushi, that might be something that you're not on board with. You might not want to stop eating raw fish. If you're somebody who loves, you know, like a runny yolk and an egg, then that might be a challenge for you as well. I know I don't like to eat eggs unless the yolk is runny, and so the entire time I was pregnant, my husband really wanted me to eat eggs because they were such a good source of protein, but I just didn't want to have them because I only wanted the runny yolk, and I didn't want to have like an omelet or like scrambled eggs or anything like that. But they're carriers of salmonella, they're carriers of listeria and E. coli, and so it's just safer to avoid those things because they can get you sick, but they can also get your baby really sick, and you just want to be safe, and so I avoided those things as much as possible. Number 8, topical lotions and supplements. If you are somebody who likes facials like me, or if you are somebody who likes lotions and body products, moisturizers, this one might be a difficult one. I actually have a little bit of eczema, and so because of that, I have a prescribed steroid that I'm supposed to be using. But whenever I would check with my doctor, they would say, you know, it's just safer to avoid. If you can live with it, then go ahead and live with it. When I hit my 3rd trimester, things got really hard, and so I would speak to my doctor. My doctor just told me, you know what, if you want to use a little bit of it, just, you know, on an infrequent basis, go ahead. And so I did use that steroid a couple of times, but not very often during my 3rd trimester when things were a little bit safer. I also switched all of my body products and facial products to natural products. So I found things that just didn't have a lot of chemicals in them, had a lot of natural products. I found, like, I used cocoa butter and shea butter and other things like that that I just knew would be safer for my body and as well for the baby. And since then, I haven't really gone back to a lot of the original products that I've been using because they're just so good. And in terms of supplements, it's safer for you not to take any supplements. I was told by my doctor to just take a prenatal supplement and like a fish oil, like DHA or something like that, because that helps with neural tube development. But in terms of other supplements, they said, you know, we really don't recommend that because we don't want your baby to have like some sort of imbalance. One of the things that is not very good for babies is a high level of vitamin A, and so we just didn't take any supplements. And so if you're somebody who's on supplements, it might be better to check with your doctor before stopping those things if they're for your own health. But in general, if you're just taking them for like a natural benefit, it might be better for you to stop. Number 9, Xrays. So this one is, you know, a pretty obvious one again, and you will probably hear it whenever you go to get an X-ray done. They'll probably ask you if you're pregnant or if you might be pregnant if you're not sure yet. And so that's something that, you know, might not be super like inconvenient for you. You might be like, okay, whatever, I'll just wait and get an X-ray done later if necessary. But if you do need an X-ray, they'll probably just weigh out the benefits, and they'll say, you know, if it's a life-threatening thing, if it's something that they absolutely require, then they'll weigh the cost and the benefit for you and for the baby. One place that I was surprised did not ask me was the dentist's office. So when I went in for a regular cleaning, they said, oh, you're due for X-rays, and they just started setting everything up, and I had to be the one to say, oh, hold on, I'm pregnant, I can't get X-rays done. And so then they just postponed them till after I was pregnant. Finally, number 10 is high mercury fish. Fish in general is so good for you. It's so good for you in general, but it's also really good for you while you're pregnant. And it has a lot of omega-3 and fatty acids and things that you need and your baby needs as well. But high mercury fish is actually what's not good for you. And so it's important that you don't cut out fish entirely based on this video or other research that you've done, but cut out high mercury fish, things like swordfish and mackerel and albacore tuna. You can have shellfish, you can have even canned albacore tuna. If you have canned tuna, it's usually lower in mercury than if you have regular tuna, but it's one of those things that I just didn't have the canned tuna either. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that this was helpful and that this is something that, really gives you a little bit more information as to why you should be avoiding these things. I know that for me, it was just really important during pregnancy to figure out what was good for my baby, and I was stressed about that, and it was videos like this and articles and other things that helped me out, and so I wanted to just provide that help to you guys as well. Comment below if you have any other things that you want to add to the list that other people might find helpful, and like this video and subscribe to my channel so I can make more content like this. Bye guys!